I welcome the opportunity to make statements and make a statement and be part of this debate here today. The question is, Minister, because you're the only representative here from the government for this part of the debate, well, the caretaker government at least, there's two ministers here. Why was water charges such an issue? Why did water charges dominate the political discourse for so long? Why was water charges such an issue in the election campaign? Why was water charges the issue that spooked both Fine Gael and Labour over and over again into making mistake after mistake after mistake? Why did water charges force the party of water charges, Fianna Fail, from changing its position of signing us up to water charges in the first place with the Troika and the Memorandum of Association to eventually changing their position for electoral gain? Because of people power. Because people rose up and had enough and saw water charges as a tipping point. And right across this state, from every town, from every village, from every community, from almost every housing estate across this state, people rose up and marched in their tens of thousands against water charges. And they weren't just marching against water charges. They weren't just protesting against water charges. They saw it as a tipping point. And they saw it in terms of all of the nasty, mean cuts that were brought in by Fine Gael and Labour and Fianna Fail before them. All of the cuts to social welfare, all of the cuts to community services, all of the taxes that were brought in, all of the damage that was done to pay back the bondholders and the banks and the property speculators. That's why people were angry. And they rose up. And it was fantastic to be part of the Right to Water movement and to march and protest with senior citizens, to march and protest with young people, to see children, to see a family-friendly atmosphere at these rallies and protests, to see people from all over the state, from working-class communities, coming together to say no to these charges because they knew they were unfair and they were unjust. And that's why Fine Gael and Labour were spooked. And that's why Fianna Fail changed their position. Deputy Chambers talks about Sinn Féin sitting on our hands, and we're hearing this all of the time from Fianna Fail over the last number of weeks. The reality is that when we were out standing shoulder to shoulder with trade unionists, with all of those communities across this state on the street, there was nobody from Fianna Fail. Ye sat on your hands and you abandoned those communities when they needed support. And you cynically used the issue of water charges in some game and use it as a pawn in a game. That's all it is to Fianna Fail. You are not sincere and you are not genuine. And at the first opportunity, we know that Fianna Fail will betray the people on water charges as they have done before. The reality is, and you can shout me down all you like, I didn't interrupt anybody. You don't have to agree with what I say. You don't have to agree with what I say. The reality is this, and everybody in this chamber needs to realise it. All 158 TDs need to realise that water charges are politically dead and they need to be given a burial in this chamber. And we do it by bringing in legislation that abolishes domestic water charges. We do it by bringing in legislation that abolishes Irish water. We're doing it by introducing legislation to hold a referendum on public ownership. And there's a motion signed by 39 Dáil deputies. Not one single member of Fianna Fail, not one single member of Fine Gael have signed that motion. Why? Because you are not interested in dealing with this issue. If you want water charges scrapped, sign up to the motion, bring in the legislation, give water charges and Irish water the burial they deserve, and stop prolonging the game and stop prolonging the nonsense. Sinn Féin has made it clear in the past that we would not pursue those people who have not paid water charges. We have said that we cannot make such a commitment to pay back those who have paid if and when water charges are abolished, and we said that because we believed at the time the money was not there. We welcome the fact that the Minister for Finance today has said that there is increased scope in terms of the fiscal space, and in that context we would be willing to look at such a proposal in terms of seeing if it was viable to refund those who have paid their water charges to date, if that was possible. There is a responsibility on everybody in this chamber to stop playing games on the issue of water charges. Let's just bring in, the legislation. Let's bring in the legislation and let's deal with this once and for all. And that's what the people want. That's what they elected us to do. We're not sitting on our hands. We have signed a motion. We are prepared to do what we were elected to do, which is to vote, which is to pass legislation and not to play games, which is what Fianna Fail.
Deputy Imelda Munster. Thank you, Deputy. Conclude, please. Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Imelda Munster.